Hmm. Hmm. Where is it?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
You.
Since we're already starting recording, let's talk about this great film. How did this come about? And I hope the audience comes to see this, which is what we want, right?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us on your show, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Ladies first, let's talk about this because it's not easy with independent films these days. And the whole thing is with 5,000 movie theaters closing, my job is to get people to go back out there and see something like this. American Warriors, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think why now and why this film? Because there's so many films out there in the market that you've got a lot of choice, right? But this is a really important film. First of all, it's a positive immigrant story, which there's not enough of. And secondly, it's a really inspiring story. It's a thoughtful, it's a sports drama, and there's really awesome action sequences, very cool. We had incredible choreographers, but at the same time, it's also a pensive film with a deeper message, and it's something I think that will resonate with everyone. It's about second chances and finding that fire inside you and what makes that click, and how do you pull yourself out from the gutter. And that's really what it's about.
And the good thing about this is when you have Danny Trejo in, it was almost like when you had Michael Madsen or Eric Roberts, you know you're going to have a good film. And that's an important thing because it's about marketing too. It's about that name brand. And what I always like is always the newcomer to the right of you. When you have that newcomer and it's based on that story and you got to get it out there, that's never easy, is it?
No, I mean, Vish can talk more about it since it's his whole personal journey of getting this film made. It's been 6 years.
Talk about it, Vish.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for having me on the show. The reason for this project is this lady sitting right next to me. She reps me for acting in here. She's a manager. The movie itself came about. It's sort of very, very loosely based on my own personal story of some money lost in business, and I used that experience to you know because I felt like I was being in a ring getting punched, and
Yeah.
and that became the metaphor. So I picked, and the punches were so hard, I felt that I was in a MMA ring just getting punched, and I deserved it. So when you get punched and when you mess up, what do? You look for redemption, and you look for a second chance. You want you like, hey, me too. I made a mistake, right? That's so it's about a hero. It's about a guy who just wants to make things right for himself and his community. So it's about redemption, second chances, and when you're down and out, what do? You are alone with yourself in the darkness. How do you pull yourself out? So that's what this movie is about.
Yeah, our stunt choreographer, Aaron Crippen, he said something in an interview recently, and he said, sometimes the real fight, like, yes, you're in the ring and you're getting punched and all these difficult things are happening to you in your life, much like Jay that he plays on screen. He's got all these different ways he's personally being fighting through the day, but really the fight is inside. Sometimes it's your mind and your heart, and that's really where the fight is. And so that's what I thought was so interesting about this film. And it also takes the American dream and it kind of flips it on its head, because this is a guy who he had it together and he lost it. So where do you go from there? How do you build yourself back? Where do you start?
You know, the interesting take about this, which I found interesting, was it's the Indian culture. When you have that culture, you're looked about as that male, as that provider, and as the woman, as you know, sometimes less than, which is not fair, but that's just the culture sometimes. And if you lose money, oh my goodness, is the family going to come on down on you, right?
Yes. And
Talk about that. That's important.
yeah, it was. It's yeah. You hit the nail on the head. There are certain no-go zones in every culture, and this guy went into the no-go zone, and literally gets abandoned from his family, and he has no relationship with them. Uh, and it sort of happened. Like I said, it's a very loosely. I made certain mistakes in my life, and my dad did not speak to me for 10 years.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that, a lot of families go through this, but there's not a lot of stories that tell this. And it is very important because for me, my friends are my family is my acquaintance. And I've always said that. Now, my sister hated when I said that, but she didn't know what I went through with my friends who were there
Yes.
3,000 miles away when I was in California and they're
Yes.
on the East Coast. So I
Yes.
can relate to that perspective of things. And it is very hard to make it on your own because you don't know, you can't give up. You know, you can't,
Yeah.
but you don't know if you can make it to the next day sometimes.
Yes.
And this is
Yes.
where the story gets interesting, right?
And it's so many times, I'm 10,000 miles away from my home country, and I didn't know anybody. And there have been days when when I didn't have food. And I was brought up pretty with my parents. Once I stopped taking money from my parents, I experienced poverty for the first time in this country. 3 days with no food. And a friend slept in my friend's couch for 2.5 years.
You know, it's funny. I've always told people when I went through my homeless situation, I said I didn't even have a car. And it was one of those things, once you don't have a car and you're walking a lot to get to where you are, to where we are now, it grounds you, but it makes you humble. But you're
Yeah.
also looking like, we've been here. I can understand this relationship.
Yeah.
It is our job and responsibility to help those people come in because there's someone else that's going to go through it too. Right,
Yes.
Cristy?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's also there, but for the grace of God go I. That's one way to look at it. We're all just one step away from being in the streets. I mean, a lot of us, and I think the best artists really keep that in mind when they're creating, and they're in that zone where the stakes, and that's what we try to keep that tension going through the movie because it's really important to figure out where that fight is.
Talk about the casting aspect of things because it's very important. You couldn't pay me to act. I did that when I was with Van Damme and a couple other people in the early '90s. And as I was on the set, coming from the world of home video, remember when we had video stores?
Mm-hmm.
That's the world I came from. My job was I always liked movies. I thought my time was being wasted by hurry up and wait. Now, independent films, you don't have that luxury half the time, but you still have that. And it was one of those things. I know why you're laughing, but it's one of those things where I'm not going to do this. Let me see if I can help those people who really want to have that acting bug, who really want to have that profession. I would rather watch those movies than be on a set. That's me. Everybody else is the opposite of that. But at least I own that. So I can understand what it's like to put a movie together and the responsibility of marketing, because that's the real tough job these days, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many things to touch on in that question. First of all, the casting process. Like we had set when we got the script to a place that we were really all like, this is the one, let's go. We brought on Lisa Essery, who is really a legendary indie film casting director. She's so talented, and we went through like exhaustive lists together, and that was sort of my point as the producer. And when we settled on Danny, it was just like a no-brainer. Like his name popped up. We were like, obviously that's Dennis. And then we were like, well, okay, how do you get Danny? So, I mean, he's doing huge, studio films, so we just took a shot. And luckily what I think he really resonated with him is that he's a living, walking, breathing redemption story. I mean, he was,
Yep.
he's very open about it and he talks about it. And he said really what what he loved about this story was the theme and also the boxing MMA element. These are passions of his for his whole life, and talking about being, strapped with a little indie bit, budget. Have Danny Trejo here, and the funny thing is his schedule. Like he gets to set, and we're on like day 2 or 3 with him, and he's like, I have never shot so many scenes in one day in my life. We're like, yeah, we're so sorry. But he was awesome. He was awesome about the whole thing. And he was also really, I mean, he's a guy who's actually interested in the process. So he was really so generous with giving pointers to newer or less experienced actors in every scene. Like he really got a thrill out of that. He was awesome and really encouraged people that he was in the big fight scene, and he was encouraging like Calvin Peters to play around with a little, his voice as being the announcer. And he was encouraging Hope Adams, who's the fight doctor, to really go for it. He's like, you're in the ring. You've got the power to stop this fight. Like, let's play with that, So there are a few takes that they're not in the movie, but like they really went head to head. And it was just awesome to have him there. And he was so vested in the film. And, you don't ever know what you're going to get sometimes with someone of that stratospheric fame. They could just be dialing it in and getting out of their trailer and coming to set and, needing a cue card. But Danny was like really there and totally invested in the success of the film. And it's been so humbling to be on this journey with him. He's just been really supportive.
I interviewed Danny when he first started. I still remember where we were. We were at MPRM studio, their offices on Wilshire, and he and I were having a one-on-one. And I don't know if nobody wanted to talk to him because his story was interesting. Before he did his very first film, after he's released from where he came from. And I've always said, I will never say no to anybody because you just never know where they're going to end up being. And I take pride in knowing those things because we don't have a lot of one-on-one interactions anymore. The studios don't have the budgets. A lot of the independents don't have it. So that's why I always say yes. And then I always find myself doing 2 or 3 a day. And I don't want to do so many Zooms a day anymore because I don't have the time, nor do I have to. So I always feel it is important to take the time because independent films need help. I know what it's like to help market those, and it's not easy. And I know most people will say no. And when they say no, I automatically want to say yes, which leads to, what was it like being on set and this being really your first film? That's not easy. It's one thing to write the story and to tell it. It's another thing to be in it. Because if you think who did this back in the day, it's Sylvester Stallone. How do you think he did Rocky? He didn't give it away. He did it because he knew. So I felt you had that same passion.
Yes. Yeah. How did it feel to be on set? It's just a dream come true to see my name next to a trailer, and it's just the most beautiful thing. And I was very grateful, just because it's been a 20-year journey. I grew up doing theater. I trained in French theater. I trained in a lot of Indian theater. So I was always an amateur theater guy. Then after I came to the US, I went to film school for film acting for a few years. And so I've been at it for many, many years. And eventually, this story, I was looking for a launch vehicle for myself. And this story came in my dream in 2013, and I wrote it. And eventually, just gratitude, grateful.
And then he's opposite Danny. So talk about that.
Yeah, so
that's
Danny,
incredible. And Veronica, was so generous.
Yeah, so just growing up, you watch all these big stars, and to be on set, I was pinching myself the first day. Am I really acting with Danny? As nervous as which I didn't show, but Danny was so extraordinarily generous with me. He would hug me almost after every. He's like, "Well done, kid." And so he was just so nice to me. And it was a great humbling experience to learn such a big star can be so relatable and be so supportive and give me tips on boxing, give me punching hard. You can do this, you can do that. And same with Veronica. I'll have to give a shout out because one of the day was almost over and she stayed back even though she was not on screen, a POV shot. And I thanked her, and she said, "Don't worry about it. You know, actors, we need to do." So she didn't need to be there. Somebody else could have given me the lines, and I could have done it. But she made sure she stayed there. So these are big stars doing that, and it was just very humbling.
See, and that's a great thing. I mean, the last time I ran into Danny for a press junket was at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills for Machete, Robert Rodriguez. And then the last time I really saw him outside of that was when he opened his donuts right there on Santa Monica Boulevard. I go, what the hell are you doing in the donut business, Danny? I came from working from Dunkin' Donuts when I first broke into radio. So I was like laughing at that. And then Pink, come on. So the fact that you can do things like that, I think that's great, because look where his career is, and look what you did opposite that. And congratulations on that. You know, we got 5 minutes
and
left.
It's because of this lady here. You know, she's the reason.
Well, the other thing is, it's not, you know, I was just talking to Cindy Cowan. She was on our show. She's one of the best producers out there in the world.
She's amazing. I watched the show. It was so great.
Well, the thing about that is, I remember doing very bad things with her. And that was, you know, Peter Berg. Where's Peter now? You know, John Favreau was it. Look what John's done with the Marvel. You know, Cameron Diaz. I had Christian Slater when he was released from jail. I was his first TV interview at the Toronto Film Festival. The reason why I say these things is it's important to promote those films. You just never know. It doesn't matter if it's a good film or a bad film. There's always someone who's going to like it and being turned on by it. And I found that out through the years. And when we were watching 2 or 3 films a day, I'm starting to go back and rewatch the ones in the 90s when I first started doing junkets in 1993, 94, because I didn't have time to go back and watch a movie again.
Yeah.
Now I can take the time, and I'm like, wow, I did the junket on that. Whoa, the movie still holds up. And I'm like, this is interesting. So when people see something like this, you never know when they're going to see it. You never know when it's going to happen on a streaming service. And when, you know, it's about 3 weeks, sometimes to a month, for people to catch up to things. That's just their viewing habits of what I've seen cross country. So again, my hat goes out to you for what you created, because it's not easy. And I say that as a non-actor.
Thank you. We've done a 20-city sort of VIP pre-release screening. It's honestly, like, I'm calling it our roadshow tour. And it's been so rewarding to see the audience, you know, DCP and all the hard work, and really, I mean, they're coming up to you and crying, some people. I mean, they're really touched by this movie, and it's tough men who are fighters, you know? And what was the guy in Dallas? It was a big UFC gym that really supported the film. They were excited, and they came, and the guy had to take a break in the middle of the film, and he was crying. He came out in the lobby, and he saw Taylor Treadwell, who plays Melissa, his love interest in the film. And he said, I am the janitor in my gym, and this is my story. And I'm so moved. I'm overcome, and I needed a minute.
And he was African American. So it's touching every ethnicity, and they're calling it their own story, which is so rewarding as an artist.
Yeah.
And that's why you go out and promote these things like this. It's not always easy on our shows, because our shows are jam-packed with stuff, with all this stuff. But I never stop talking about those movies.
Yeah.
And I write a list down, because I do everything off the top of my head. I'm like, can I get this movie in? Can I get this trailer in? Do we have enough time? Because people are having fun. And I'm like watching it, because it's a 50-minute live show.
Yeah.
And always live, never taped. And it's never easy, no matter where I am cross country. So, you know, I can't get to it. So I can do it this week. And then I'm like, let me see, I'll do a Zoom for this, even though I don't like to do Zooms anymore, because 20 and 21, I did 109 Zooms in both of those years. And I said, never again, never again.
Zoom is a lot. Yeah. But
that was way too much.
So I'm from Memphis originally, and we had a screening there where Taylor is also from Memphis. And that's, you know, how I knew about Taylor as an actress. And so anyway, we sort of co-hosted this screening in Memphis, and because we're from there, it's a lot of like my parents' friends, and just, you would think people that wouldn't typically be interested in a fight movie. Let's put it that way. Okay. These are like garden club ladies and people like that. Anyway, they freaking loved the movie. And it wasn't just because I was there. They were really inspired by the grit of these characters. And they said, you know, you don't see this anymore. People give up so easily. And this is a really important message. Like everything in this guy's life is really hard. And they were saying, one of my mom's friends was like, I want my grandchildren to watch this movie. This is real world. This is what it's like, you know? And I thought that was like such a compliment, you know? And somebody last night, we had a screening in Artesia that was unbelievable, with a very sort of high-end, fabulous Indian lady crowd mostly, which was also not what you would think would like this movie. And they all loved it. And they said, you know, it's the positive. This guy took a negative and he made it a positive in his life. And you don't see that. And they thought that was such an important story. And they said, you know, like Omi was with us last night, Omi Vijay, who plays his cousin in the film. He's normally known for comedy, and he's playing kind of like a darker guy, you know, personality wise. And he says, you know, we don't have that many South Asian action stars that are the lead through and through of the film. I mean, this is a rare thing to see Vish. So it's very cool that we could basically make this incredible opportunity and build it with the proper caliber of talent and he, you know, obviously was ready and rose to the occasion. I mean, the reviews have been very kind, and that's like the most rewarding part, because you never know. You can put all your heart and soul into an indie film and you could still come out with, you know, something you're embarrassed about.
Last two questions for both of you. What would you say to get the audience to come out to see this film? Very important.
What is it? I didn't know.
What are you going to say to get the audience to come see the film?
Well, yes, it's a movie, but it's also talks to your challenges. If you're going through stuff, which we all are, maybe you can draw inspiration and grit and determination and resilience by watching this movie. And
I say there's one, like the storylines are fantastic, in my opinion. I don't like it when I'm watching a movie with, you know, my dad on one side and my kid on the other side, and there's some really cringy, embarrassing scene or something that's too violent or inappropriate. This is a film that you can comfortably watch with your whole family. There's a character in it that everyone's going to relate to in their own way, and you're not going to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm Disney sanitized. Like there's a place for that too. But this is something that I'm like, can't wait. I feel like it's going to be like it's just a great like holiday movie night, you know, thing to do with your family. And that's why I think this weekend is the perfect weekend for it to release, August 29th, because everyone's going to be together with their family. And I'm like, this is why we chose this weekend. I think it's fantastic.
And the last thing, social media links, how people can reach out to you, because you know, you never know what's going to happen when your film opens, and that gives people, the audience, always a way to follow what you're doing from now on.
Yeah, the simple hashtag American Warrior Movie is the Instagram handle.
Yeah, at American Warrior Movie, or any of the stars, any of us are on Instagram, and it's really us, and we can really talk to you. So we'd love you to reach out. We'd love to hear your review. View us and rank us on Rotten Tomatoes, please. Like, you know, if you like the film, we would love to know about it.
All right. I have to thank you two for that, because it's important to do these things like that. That's why I took the time to do this, because I only got a chance just to mention at the end of the show because of running out of time. And I was minus two people of my co-hosts.
I was such a huge show, and they were all such fabulous guests. I was like, what?
Our shows are always like that. And the whole thing is, even if one, you know, someone's got a storm or something like that, we're still overcrowded on our shows because everybody wants to be on it. And I never say no. I was like, how can I do this? How can I fit someone in? And then when I'm done, it's like going on stage. Well, you've been on stage. It's like going on stage. I just want to go to sleep after that because it's exhausting. You put it all into that, you know?
Yes. It is a stage.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're overwhelmed. You've got so many people you're talking to on a daily basis.
Oh no, I don't get overwhelmed. No, and I talk to them. I'm actually ahead. But the problem is I still have to watch movies. I'm still watching 2.5 movies a day on average, matter where I am.
Wow.
Most of it's on my computer.
Right. You and Tom Cruise.
The Tom was 2.5 movies a day.
He watches a movie every single day. I do know that.
Wow.
He talks about that in his interviews.
We should send our movie to him.
I admire him.
We should send our movie to him.
I think he's like the consummate artist. I really think his producing ability alone, I am just in awe of.
Yeah, well, he saved the movie business by, having
Yeah,
Top Gun come
hero.
out,
He's a real hero.
All right. I will thank you for your time and everything like that. Cristy, after this is over, call me. We will see you.
Thank you. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Okay. That was cool.